All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope your day is going well. My name is Gabriel Papineau-Legris, and I'm Commercial Director at Gulf Keystone. For those who don't know us, here's our few facts. We operate the Shaikan field in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. We have an 80% stake. It's a large field. We're talking about nearly 600 million barrels of oil on 2P reserves. Production last year was 32,000 barrels gross, and currently it's around 36,000 barrels. Our plan is to triple production over the next few years, our vision, and we have a plan to do so. We submitted an FDP last year to the government. It's not been accepted, but we're working right now with the government and our partner to address the concern of the government in relation to the reinjection of gas and towards the approval of the FDP. But in the meantime, works on the ground continues towards the first phase of the expansion to reach 55,000 barrels per day in Q1 2020. We're a London-listed company. We have a capital market cap of $700 million US. Last year, we reported record figures, revenue, EBITDA, but also a net profit of $80 million US. We have a healthy balance sheet, 100 million of debt, with cash of about just under 300 million, which allows us to fund the entire development plan that we have, up to 110,000 barrels per day. And more importantly, as you might have seen, is that we initiated a dividend this year. So in 2019, there's going to be a $50 million US dividend, Gulf Keystone. So Shaikan is an oil field with predictable production. All our production so far has been from the Jurassic reservoir. And as you can see, last year production has been relatively stable, recognizing the fact that the last well was drilled more than 4 years ago. Obviously, there's been some few dips here, but that was in relation to activity that we did. We know the field very well because we've produced over 60 million barrels so far. So we have a really good understanding of the field so far. We produce black oil, so we haven't seen any signs or breakthrough of formation water or gas at the moment. And the guidance for this year is between 32 and 38,000 barrels on a gross basis, taking into account all the activity that we're doing on the field, but more on this later on. So here's the first look at Shaikan. As you can see, it's pretty big. We have 2 production facilities. We have 9 producing well at the moment. They're all flowing naturally, meaning there's no artificial lift. There's a pipeline crossing our acreage, which is quite convenient. So our PF2 facility is already connected to the pipeline. Our PF1 facility on the western side of the field has a pipeline currently being constructed. But in the meantime, we're doing trucking from PF1 to PF2 and a small portion of trucking all the way to the border, 100 kilometers from here. But the good news is by this summer, the pipeline on PF1 will be completed and no more trucking. Just to help you appreciate the scale of the field, if you take our 2 most distant fields, if Shaikan 6 was here at the Conrad today, Shaikan 4 would be at the airport. And over the entire area, there's only 9 wells producing. So that allows us to have a lot of flexibility to increase the recovery and the development going forward. I said it's large, but it's also really thick. The majority of our oil so far, actually the integrity of our oil recovered so far, comes from the Jurassic. If you think about it, it's a column of about 950 meters. It's the same thing as taking 2 ICCs and putting one on top of each other. This is the play that we're actually working on at the moment. In addition to that, we have 2 more reservoirs, the Triassic that is below with lighter oil, and the Cretaceous above the Jurassic that is heavier than what we have. Our oil right now is between 14 and 20 API, so it's relatively heavy, but it's not viscous. And what does that mean is that we can just tap into the pipeline and it just flows really well. So what is our plan going forward? It's quite simple, and the technical guys in my team will crucify me for saying it's simple, but what we're trying to do is develop the field over time, one phase at a time, right? So we can get better, smarter as we go along. We've already produced 60 million barrels so far, and now we're ready to go into the next phase, to the 55K. We sanctioned that phase in June last year, and we're on track to meet that new production level of 55,000 in Q1 next year. Thereafter, still on the Jurassic, we want to bring production to 75,000 barrels per day. And also with this, there's going to be the gas reinjection project. We're committed to do it. We just need to finalize the details on this project to launch the gas reinjection project. After that, there is 10,000 barrel project for the Triassic. It's a pilot, so we'll drill 2 wells, try to understand a little bit more the dynamic performance of the reservoir before we can then sanction and be in a better position to go for the full stage of the development of the Triassic, but also then move on to the Cretaceous. But for the moment, only the 55 have been sanctioned, and the subsequent phases will be dependent on the approval of the FDP. So here's a look at what we're going to do in that 55,000 barrels phase this year. So as I said, we're going to complete the pipeline. We're going to debottleneck our 2 PFs, just changing some pumps and some tubing. We're going to drill 4 infill wells, still targeting the Jurassic. We're going to install 3 ESPs on existing wells, because at the moment, as I said, all our wells are flowing naturally, so we're just going to help some of our wells on the PF2. And the other element that we're doing is increasing the tubulars on our 2 earlier wells that we did. The results of the first one were actually pretty good. For Shaikan-1, increasing the diameter of the tubing allowed to increase production by 90%, and this well is now producing 9,000 barrels a day. So Shaikan-3 is pretty soon. And throughout the year, you will see activity going on with different increments, with the ESPs, with the new wells coming in one after the other. Here, there's a lot more details about each of the phases. I'm not going to go through with the details, but I think there's one key message I would like you to bring or keep with you is that we're fully funded for the entire development, right? So although there might be some large element of CapEx, like the gas reinjection, we estimate between 225 and 300 million on a gross basis, we can fund this over time, recognizing that we have 500 million in the cost pool on a gross basis, just waiting to be recovered. And the cost basis of the business is actually pretty low. We're talking about an OPEX per barrel around $3. This year, the guidance, as we're ramping up, is about 3.8 to 4.6. But longer term, $3 is the objective that we're aiming. And also the focus on the G&A has been consistent, and more than happy to walk you through some of the numbers, but we're trying and keeping the momentum to keep it down. So how does it look for the next 3 years? Again, I'm going to say it's simple, and it's never as simple, but what we're really trying to do is first grow Shaikan, start with and continue on the Jurassic, then move on to the 2 other reservoirs. But also we want to look at opportunities within Kurdistan, look at opportunities that we can bring value and also create value. Right now, the focus is really delivering the project on the Jurassic. And then once we get to that 55 stage, then we'll have a lot more flexibility. Sustain the health, the financial health. It's also very important. For those who don't know, Gulf Keystone has been through a financial restructuring in 2016. So we still keep very close eye on costs, on delivery on the project. And over time, we want to optimize the capital structure. Right now, we have 100 million of debt, but we have the flexibility to increase it, to tap for an extra 200 million. And we can get the right balance of debt to equity as we grow further the business. And lastly, return capital to shareholders over time. And what's for this year? What shareholders will be looking this year is delivering safely operation, meet the guidance, meet the production, meet the budget, We're going to also start working on the next phases of the investment. We're already, even if the 75K hasn't been sanctioned, we're doing some prep work on this. And the last point is that dividend. This year, we'll see 50 million going back to shareholders. And over the next year, there's going to be a minimum of 25 million per year. But if we see, and if the cash flow generation is good, oil price is good, we aim to supplement that dividend further, as we did this year by paying 25 plus 25 for a total of 50. So in summary, those are quite exciting times at Gulf Keystone, and thank you very much for your time.